There we go. We're live.
Hey.
Just me and Chuck today so far.
Yep.
See if John and Manny are able to join us. John mentioned something about Las Vegas, so I think he might not be. He might just be. I think it was some kind of family event, so he might not be making it today.
Gotcha. I've had a productive morning this morning.
Is that a sarcastic productive or an actual productive?
Well, I got up and went golfing with one of my co-hosts for Ruby Rogues.
Nice. There you go. That sounds productive.
Yeah. He got a text in the middle of it though that was pretty devastating news.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man.
It was interesting, but anyway. And it sucks too because it's like, so he's upset and I'm just like, I'm like, okay,
your turn, buddy.
do you want me to, do you want me to distract you, or do you just need to kind of brood over it, or
Yeah, man.
And it's one of those things where I don't have the expertise to offer any kind of help or advice, right? It's like, dude, I'm here for you, and that it feels so hollow to offer that, right?
Yes,
I'm there for you, man. That really sucks, but I'm there for you, man. So. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it was definitely nice to get out and go whack balls. So
yeah, you look like you got some sun.
Yeah, well, we've been working on our yard this week.
Oh, nice. So, okay.
Yesterday in particular, I was out pretty much all day moving dirt around in my yard. In fact, if you open the door, there's this overwhelming smell of manure. And we're putting sod down on Saturday, so
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it should be fun. Oh, my phone's ringing. Hello. Goodbye. So yeah. Anyway, it was good. It was interesting. But yeah. Just fighting the good fight, trying to keep my head above water. I keep having sponsors pay me late, and then I'm like trying to get everybody else paid, and that's
they are remarkable at finding ways to delay.
Yeah.
And like I've got a couple that I'm working with right now, and they're like, well, the one like, so I offer a 10% discount for upfront payment.
Uh-huh.
And they want to pay me not upfront, but keep the 10% discount.
Right.
So I don't know. I'll see how that plays out. So there's that. And then the other one was like, well, we're going to pay. I can pay you, like, we want to get started now. I can pay you $2,500 for, basically they paid a third of the invoice up front. And then they were going to work with purchasing to get the rest of it pushed through. And it's just like, man, how complicated. Oh, and then our other sponsor always sends our check to the wrong place. They insist on sending a check for one thing, and then it goes to the wrong. We have an old traveling mailbox and a new traveling mailbox, and they keep sending stuff to the old one, so it shows up late. And yeah, definitely sponsors they're nice to have, but they're definitely not easy to work with.
Yeah, well, at least yours are consistent, right? They send it to the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to email one of mine and just be like, you said you work on a 30-day cycle for your accounts receivable, and I haven't seen the check, and it's been almost 45 days.
The check is in the mail.
Yeah. Well, even if they tell me that, then I can just make sure that I'm, looking.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other sponsor, DigitalOcean, I've been working with their marketing agency that they hired, and the marketing agency, they're like, well, we can't pay you until you start publishing
what
podcast episodes with our ads in it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand how this works. And they're like, well, and then we've got to get the money from them before we can pay you. And I'm like, look, I'm like, we'll try this, but just keep in mind that if I don't get paid within basically 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to cut the ads off and I will probably not work with you again. And I'll let them know that I won't work with you again.
Yep.
Because I have a good working relationship with a few people over there. So anyway, that's been frustrating. I'm like, well, and the last time that they sponsored, they worked through the same agency and they just paid me.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Do you have anybody, do you have a role carved out for like accounts receivable?
No, not really.
Because that could be a good idea at some point in the future, to have somebody who's just like cheerfully relentless.
Right. Hey, you still owe us.
Yes.
Yeah. When they say, oh, we'll pay, 30 days. Yeah, then they go and they follow up. So yeah, I do want to hire somebody like that. But yeah, so I've got the DigitalOcean sponsorship is actually enough to pay for my expenses and the business's expenses for like 3 months. And then I've got Kendo UI, who renews every 6 weeks, and Angular Bootcamp, who renews every 12. And so anyway, things are really to the point. If I can, if I get this money in the bank to where I can actually start padding things out, so that I can just, pay everything. Yeah, I can have next month's expenses already in the bank, the money to pay them already in the bank. And so when I owe somebody something, I just go, okay, here. But it just feels like I can't quite get to the, I just need to get over that hump. And it looks like it's going to be another few weeks before I'm there. But it's so frustrating because, anyway. And then, so paying people through like PayPal, I've had a few people say that they don't like paying the fee, because I'm like, okay, pay these people for this work and they don't want to pay the fee, and I get that. But then I've got a limit on Venmo, so I can't pay them the full amount on Venmo.
So you might look at you might be able to do it through PayPal Mass Payments.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd need to look into it. But so LeanPub, when they would pay me, I don't believe, like, I never paid a fee.
Right.
For the money that I got from them. And I believe it's because they were using Mass Payments, and I use that with some of our people.
Okay. I
so
may try that.
It's like $1 per transaction, or $1 per, I'm not sure if it's like $1 per set of payments that you send, or if it's $1 per line, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But it's, if nothing else, it's just, it would be something to look at. Because there's definitely there's a bunch that I've worked with where I don't get charged that fee. Like pretty much any affiliate program that I've ever worked with seems like I don't get charged that fee.
Well, and I think some of the systems I think you can pay one way and it'll charge them the fee.
Yeah.
Or you can pay another way and it'll charge you the fee. But I always get that confused.
Well, so there's the send money to family and friends option, which is like there's no fee.
Yeah.
And so, there's that option, which technically, if you're doing a business transaction, you're not supposed to use. I think a lot of people end up using it, but it's the pay for goods or services that's where the fees come out.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just kind of been a hassle. So yeah, I'm looking for a better way to handle that too. And I think eventually I'll wind up to the point where I just, I don't know. I don't really want to mail out checks. So, anyway, we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, it's been kind of a battle to get that all figured out. But yeah, I'm getting that there. And then so DigitalOcean, their marketing agency, they also wanted a whole bunch of stats that I don't currently have. And so I've been working on getting everything moved over so that they can start getting reports with that information in it. And since their sponsorship starts next Tuesday, because they're in that episode, I've been putting in a ton of hours trying to get that done. And then I've been trying to get my yard done at the same time because the HOA is unhappy with me.
Oh,
I've been fighting the weeds and stuff
okay.
in the yard for 8 years. And I finally just gave up, sprayed it all with Roundup, tilled it under, and then put manure on it. And we're putting sod down on Saturday. So
Nice.
it's just been this huge battle. And I'm just so freaking tired. So I need to turn the sound off on that. I don't know how it got turned on. There we go. Now it'll just ring and no one will hear it.
What the stats? What are you going to be collecting?
So they want impressions, which is just downloads, right? I'd have to pull up the. Let me pull that up real quick. I mean, I want to do this anyway, right? So that I can actually start having, I can start having the conversations with folks. Let's see. I want to start, I want to be able to have the conversation with them, if they're getting the information that they want.
Yeah. Is there a difference? So, I use Overcast, and there's an option to stream the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any like on the server side? Is that streaming? Is that real streaming, or is it just like downloads it on demand when you start to play it? Do you know offhand?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it counts. I'm pretty sure it counts it the same way as far as the stats go.
Yeah, what I was wondering though is if it's actually streaming it somehow. Well, I guess if you have your own media hosting, which I think you're moving towards, right?
Yeah.
If it's actually streaming it, then you might be able to come up with a way of, for those ones that get streamed, getting a sense on the listen time.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be really valuable because that would be like you'd be able to tell how many people are making it to the mid-roll and end-roll,
right,
end-roll spots.
One thing that I would like to do, and I've been kind of tempted to reach out to podcast app creators, is basically offer some kind of incentive for them to send stats back, right?
So, yeah.
If a podcast gets listened up to a certain point, then it'll report that back. And I get that if somebody pauses the episode, because they're going through a drive-through or one of their kids comes and talks to them or something like that, they may come back to it, listen to the rest of it later, and then it can just amend they listen to the whole thing, or they only, because it'd be interesting for me, right? Oh, so many people opt out before the right before the picks, or
right,
whatever. So or see if people are opting out in the middle of one of the ad insertions or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So that would be, I mean, it kind of there almost needs to be a standard for that everybody does. Like, I'm pretty shocked that no one has, maybe people have tried to do it and they just haven't succeeded, but
yeah. I'm not finding that list of info that they wanted, so I might have to email them and ask them again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I was telling you about that service that I had signed up for Paved, for the email newsletter advertising. That was really nice because they had all the tracking and statistics right there in the dashboard, and it was super, like, you could log in as the advertiser or the person buying the advertising. You could log in and see exactly how it was doing.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we did. I reopened another membership drive for Simple Programmer. So I went ahead and I've settled on for now anyway. I've settled on the $99 annual pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like $9 a month with 2 months free is kind of how it comes down to. And that seems to be hitting the right balance. Like I'm trying to balance between getting people who are, I think if it was $9 a month, I would get a lot of people who are just signing up and more like just to kick the tires. So going with the annual pricing keeps the price tag high. So I think it's going to keep the quality higher overall, but it's not so expensive that it deters people from signing up. So I did another launch this week. Had no idea really what to expect. The last one I did I think I did 4 emails over 2 days and ended up getting about 56 members signed up. Or 50, it was 57, I think. So this one I decided to try it in the middle of the week. I did 5 emails and ended up getting 56 members. So basically exactly the same as last time. So that's like extremely encouraging because I've been wondering, I'm kind of waiting to see if this is going to be able to, if I'm going to be able to keep growing this month to month, or if it's going to hit a point where it's like I've tapped out, like all the people that are going to sign up in the list have already signed up, and it just kind of falls off a cliff.
Right.
So far, it seems like that's not really happening. So that is super encouraging. I was looking at the click data. I got way less. I got about 25% less people clicking through on the emails this time than last time, but I ended up selling the same amount. So the conversion rate actually went up pretty like by about 25%. So I think cross my fingers, but I think the list is starting to warm up to me a little bit. And I'm hoping that I can continue to hit like 40 to 50 new signups every month for 6 to 12 months, and that's
a lot of people though.
Signups.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sending to 110,000 people on the email list, so it's not a huge number.
I know, but what I'm saying is just for the community and keep making sure that you're taking care of everybody who signs up. That's a lot of people to take care of.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm not going to be the one taking care of them. Like I'm going to do some of it, but the next thing I'm going to be working on is getting some ambassadors in place who can help me and go out there, like proactively reach out to people. So I had signed up for the Copy Chief community, which is what I'm modeling this after. And Copy Chief is $1,000 a year, so 10 times what I'm charging. And they have like the primary feature is this forum that they have, and they have like 10 to 12 people that are paid ambassadors. And when you sign up, you get assigned to, like, they basically divvy up the new people coming in, and you get assigned to somebody's portfolio, and then they like reach out to you proactively and try to get you to engage in the community, and they'll try to get you to fill out your profile, introduce yourself, and then they will if they know what you do, they will actually like flag you in threads where they think you might have something to contribute. So, and then when you do that, the system sends out an email, so the person gets emailed from the community, even if they haven't been.
Hang on, this is a phone call I actually have to take.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. We have 3 viewers right now. So I will not attempt to read Chuck's lips.
All right, sorry about that.
All right, not a problem. Yeah, so this ambassador, like the ambassador group, they seem like they do a really good job of bringing people in and keeping them engaged, and really like getting people, kind of getting them into the habit of using the community is really important, and it, like that has to happen early on.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably have some kind of schedule that where they reach out to people. So one of the next things I'm going to be working on then is going to be the onboarding process. I've got a list of about 10 different emails that I want to write to queue up for when people join. And then once I have that built, I think I'm going to work on trying to find 1 or 2 people that are already in the community who could help out and be ambassadors.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, so for the onboarding sequence, what I'm planning is to have, so I was excited this week. I got, do you know what Tapatalk is? Have you ever used that? It's like, so it's it's basically a native forum client. So if you have like a Zenforo is the forum software that I'm using. It also supports like, gosh, I'm trying to remember what some of them are, but there's like a couple of popular open source like PHP forums that most of the forums out there use. So you basically just install this plugin on your server, and then people can log in with their Tapatalk account and subscribe to the forum, and it gives you like it's a much nicer experience than just using the browser, and it gives you push notifications.
Oh, nice.
So so I got it set up this week. I'm going to do an email today up to the group about how to install it and get it configured and everything. So that'll be nice. So I'll have push notifications, and then people will also get email notifications when new threads get posted or when they get mentioned. So I'm thinking, like, I'm looking for ways like that to try to keep drawing people back in. The Slack forum was really nice because it had, when I was doing it in Slack, it had all the notifications, and people were engaging a lot, and it was actually too much because it was like we only had like 30 members at the time, and there were way too many threads going on. Like I could not possibly keep up with it, and there's no way in Slack to really mark things or flag them or anything so that you can go back through and answer. So I'm gonna get people, try to get people set up with the Tapatalk app, because I had a bunch of people ask me for a native app. They're like, I hate using the browser for this kind of thing. So this should hopefully help with that. So the welcome sequence will be register on the forum, set up this Tapatalk app, and then I'm going to try to get them to write it, like introduce themselves in the introduction thread, introduction forum rather, and then I think I'm going to try to bribe them to ask a question too. This is something that Perry Marshall does with his group, where when you join, if you will post a question to his forum, he gives you like $50 credit.
Oh, nice.
So so if people will do that, then we'll get them engaging and getting some, maybe getting a useful question answered, and they start to. So they'll have a couple threads on the forum already where people will be replying, and they'll be getting emails, and they'll be pulling them back in.
Right.
And then then I'm gonna do some threads about like we have this every Wednesday we do this WIP. I call it WIP Wednesday, which is like work in progress. So you post with your goal, what you did last. It's like a mini Scrum stand-up kind of thing. You post your goal, what you did last week, and what you are doing this week, what you're committing to do this week. And that seems like it's been pretty popular. It's caught on. Like people have, when I was off in Ireland, somebody started the thread without me prompting it, and people posted their goals and stuff. So,
oh, nice.
Gonna try to get people contributing to that. And I've got like 4 or 5 other things that I want to have in that sequence. And then, so once I get that written, which I'd like to do in the next week or so, then I'm going to be looking for the ambassadors, because I think it's getting to the point now where it's too much for me to keep up with. Right. We have like 130 some members that are registered in the forum. So it's starting to be more than I can handle. The other thing I did that worked out pretty well was somebody posted a question about salary. He's doing some salary research because he's anticipating a job offer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I emailed Josh Duty, who does the salary negotiation stuff. And I said, hey, we have this thread. Would you like to contribute? So then I gave him an account, basically. He came in, he wrote a nice reply to this thread. And then I used that. I wrote an email about his reply and sent that out to the group. So it's kind of basically what you have to do with these type of things is like, it's astroturfing. If you remember that term from like, it's like the fake grassroots. Like you have to kind of manufacture. This stuff will happen naturally eventually once you get to a critical mass. But early on, you have to like just keep pushing the flywheel. And doing like forcing a lot of this stuff to happen, so that people start to realize what the possibilities are.
Yep.
So the other thing I need to do is I'm going to be rewriting the sales page I have now is a complete joke. It is literally it's less than 300 words of copy, and it's converting. This time around it converted at 2%. So that's not bad. So I need to yeah, I know it's pretty for a $99 offer. That's pretty decent. So what I need to do is the biggest problem I'm seeing with this is not is mainly that the click-throughs from the emails are low. Like 2% conversion for a sales page is actually pretty good. The problem is that only 2% of my list clicked through during this whole sequence. So that number needs to get a lot bigger.
Right.
So I've been promoting it mainly as just like a community, kind of, I need to have it needs to be a lot more specific and tangible. And I think when I'm able to flesh it out more, the click-through rate's going to go way up, and then I will be actually making a decent amount of sales.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what all the use cases are for a community like this. And so one of the things I'm going to include in the welcome sequence is posting a critique, like requesting critique for your blog, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, something like that. Because that's one of the major getting feedback on that kind of thing, I think will be very helpful for people. I'm considering doing for next month a resume clinic. We have this resume writer that we've worked with in the past, and I'm thinking about going to her and asking if she'd be interested in doing like a little mini, 3-day clinic where we take submissions from people, and she does maybe does some video critiques, and it's all for members. So we would do this. I would be promoting this next time I open the group.
Right.
As like a membership benefit kind of thing. But yeah, I was pretty dejected earlier in the week. And actually when I sent out the first email on Tuesday, the first day I only got 7 signups, and I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. And I was pretty dejected. And then it really started to roll the second day, actually. Usually the first day and the last day would be the ones where you get the most signups. But one thing I started to do more, we've talked about this on the show a couple of times too, is I started to tell a lot more of my own story.
Right.
So the email that really did the best was me talking about how once upon a time, like before I met you guys, before I got into programming, I had this dream that if I worked really hard, one day I would maybe earn $40,000 a year. Like that was kind of like my mental ceiling.
Right.
And then I talked about how actually it was your I think actually your podcasts were kind of the first crack in that belief, because I remember listening to the Freelancer show and some of your other shows, and people were talking about billing $150 an hour, and it was not really a big deal. Like that's kind of for Rails, I think that was kind of the going rate back then. If you were half decent, and that was like a huge eye opener. And that was like that was like really, really instrumental for me, and got me thinking that I had a lot more potential than I realized. And then coming into the entrepreneurship thing, that was like another big jump. So I told that story, and I talked about how what really changed was changing the people that I was hanging out with. And people really responded to that one. I think that one, I'll have to look, but I think that one probably made the most sales of any of the emails. So I'm going to start doing a lot more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it hits on a couple of notes, right? Because people can now identify with you. But there's also the effect of, they also identify with your story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah, and I've been kind of one thing that I was talking to Perry in Ireland about this, and one of the things that he said, like I felt like I've had this like belief holding me back that the audience is not going to respect me like they respected John because I'm just a marketer. It's like John had a lot more success than I did as a developer, and I really could have, knowing what I know now, I know I could go back to it and do a lot of the same things that John did. I've just gone a different route, and but yeah, I have this I've had this concern that the audience wouldn't respect me because I've gone down this marketing path. And Perry was like, well, you know what? They don't necessarily respect marketers, but they probably do respect entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so that's actually
very true.
Yeah. And so that's how I'm actually starting. And really honestly, that's more how more what I am. I'm an entrepreneur. I have this marketing skill set, but so I that was a huge like light bulb moment for me when he said that. And so I'm just starting to, it gave me a lot of confidence to step up and start telling my story. And just like that minor little tweak to how I'm presenting myself made a big difference.
Right.
So, yeah, so I started that. This was kind of the first little bit of implementing that I've had. So, yeah, so it ended up being a pretty good week. But.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, and going back to the idea of who you're hanging out with, right? I mean, you just needed somebody with the perspective that Perry was going to give to you.
Yep, exactly.
And yeah, I found that as well. I spend time with people who they're negative about life and things like that, and we all go through periods where we are that. But anyway, it's interesting just to kind of see, well, some of this, the downers and the, all this stuff at the same time, it does affect you. And so, I mean, I'm the kind of person where I just want to take care of people. And,
Yes,
and
exactly.
so,
Yep.
Speaking to kind of what we were talking about earlier with, I have a friend that, all of a sudden he's going through, this thing, and all I can offer him is, dude, I'm there for you. I mean, I want to solve it. I want to make his life better, and I can't. And, so there is something to be said, finding people that you can serve, but at the same time, if it's an ongoing limiting belief, then you're better off somewhere else.
I think the important thing is what is your overall environment like?
Yeah.
So I know people, I know it's funny. So my wife moved to where we live now is kind of like it's like a well-to-do suburb. And generally the Western Pennsylvania where I live is pretty, people are very negative and, have this attitude that they're never going to be successful because the man has his boot on their neck, and they're just, that's just the mentality. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But so she lived in central Pennsylvania, which was the same way, only worse, because there's even less, we have out here, we have Pittsburgh, so there's some industry and everything. They basically had nothing after the coal and the steel industry in Johnstown collapsed 20, 30 years ago, and they've had nothing. Right. So she moved out here. She knows a friend who moved out here as well to the same place. And this lady managed to recreate that same environment for herself. She managed to go find, even though the community that we live in is this pretty positive. People are, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, people are out there doing stuff, making it happen. This lady managed to recreate all the negativity and drama of her old community, in it's quite an undertaking, really, with where we live now, but she pulled it off. And so it's okay. I think it's okay to have a few people that you're helping, but that can't be your overall, your overall community that you're a part of needs to be pulling you up. You're not going to be the one person that helps 20 people fix their lives. You might be able to help one or two people. But yeah, it's.
Yeah, but people seek that homeostasis. I mean, that's why that lady's creating the drama that she had before, is because it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. Yep.
It's stupid, but it's comfortable.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So what are you working on next week then? You're just gonna tackle this ambassador thing?
I think this week, it's gonna be mainly gonna be the onboarding sequence. I got to get that squared away. Basically, I need to do this with all the new people that have come in anyway. So I'm just gonna write the emails, send them out, and then tweak them and put them in the autoresponder for the next batch of people that come through. So yeah, that'll probably be the majority of my focus for the next week. And then if I have time, I'll probably start digging into the sales page, revamping that. Really, it's not so much writing the sales page; it's actually figuring out what the heck the program is going to be. You know what I mean? Because right now, I need to have some ongoing things that are part of this that provide some structure. So it's not just a forum. It's we have a purpose, we have goals, we have things we're doing together to make it feel more like a community. So figuring out, I'm still figuring out what that all is gonna look like. It's surprisingly hard.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, it's I mean, people want kind of a structured program.
Yeah.
So if you have it, even if they come in and it's like, hey, this week we're working on step 4, but we're all working on it together, they can go and they can figure out steps 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, it's interesting.
So. Yeah, I think I'm one thing I talked to John about. So we might. John's considering. He's going to be traveling a bit, but he's considering doing some coming back as a simple programmer author. So like occasionally doing a course or two here and there. So one idea we were hashing out some ideas this week, and one thing we came up with was test marketing a bunch of like basically pre-selling, coming up with a list of like courses we could create, and then pre-selling 5 of them to different segments of the list, and then seeing which ones work. And then if we don't make many sales on one, we just refund the 5 people that bought, and then kill it. So I think like one of the things I'm looking to do is to try to have a focus for each month, maybe with the group, that somehow parallels a course that we're creating.
Right.
So like if I do this resume thing, like a resume clinic type of thing, then I could structure that as a group activity, but basically we'd be creating the course materials as we go. So, maybe, so this lady's name is Jennifer. She does resume writing for IT and software development. So maybe she does like a 1-hour live webinar for members on the perfect software developer resume. And then we have people submit their resumes for critiquing. She picks 3 or 4, does video critiques, and then maybe we do text critiques on some of the other ones. And we just kind of do that over a month. And then we've created this body of stuff. It's essentially a mini course that we can offer to the members. And then what I would do would be to probably sell that as a front end product to people that weren't members.
Right.
So they could either pay cash for it, or they could just sign up for the group, and they would get the course for free, and they would get access to the group.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to be careful about is I want to, I've basically been selling this the hardest way possible, which is to sell it as a community without really any added benefits. The easy way to sell it would be to have it as an upsell on a popular course or something that we sell as like, we sell this $9 course, and if you buy it, we offer you the upsell, and you get the $9 course plus a library of other courses plus this community for $99. Like that would be the easiest way to sell it. However, I think that the people that we would get doing that would not engage in the community at the same level.
Right.
Because the people that are buying it right now, since I'm selling it the hardest way possible, they're actually buying the community versus signing up for some content and getting the community as like a bonus. So I want to be careful that I think that's a good thing, and I don't want to lose that. But I do want to be able to offer more content as like a kind of grease the skids a little bit.
Yeah. I've been thinking about some of the course stuff the same way. I mean, I've been perpetually working on, getting things together for this stupid course. And, I've just had all this other stuff come up, but I just haven't been able to do it. But one thing that I've thought about doing is, do you remember Peep Code? So I've been thinking about doing something more along that model, where instead of, building an entire course, it's just a 1 hour or maybe a 2 hour in certain circumstances, where it's, hey, here's a 1 hour intro to this technology. And then, because I can commit to churning one of those out every couple weeks.
Right.
And then I can
sell them. Is it a subscription or?
So the way that Peep Code did it was you could buy the videos one off.
Okay.
And if you bought it, you owned it, right? So you could log back in and get access to it whenever. Or they also did offer a subscription where it was just kind of access to everything pass.
Okay.
And I feel like as long as I continually create those videos, then it makes the subscription worth having. But then for the people who are like, you know what, I'm only going to need the video here and the video there, then I'll do that. But the other thing is that I've really been wanting to pick up some of the technologies that we're covering now on some of the podcasts. So like I would do a 1 hour video on basic Vue or basic React or basic Angular, right? And so it's like, hey, look, I spent a couple hours learning this, and here's a 1 hour recap of, what I learned with demos and things like that. And that way I can be learning it, but I can also then, kind of recoup some of the value of that time. So
Right. So we're kind of looking at doing something similar to that. If you're going to do it, you got to price it at like impulse buy prices.
Yes. Yeah.
So it has to be $5 to $9.
Yeah. I was thinking $9 per video. And then, once I have a big enough catalog, then I can come in and say, okay, you know what? It's, I don't know, $50 a month or something for access to everything. Or
I think you probably would be better off to just go with a unlimited, like lifetime, or like seriously, like $99 for lifetime access, or $99 for a year.
$99 for a year. Yeah.
Yeah, because the
that's actually completely fair. If I'm putting out, I figure 2 videos per month, then yeah, you're essentially getting a 50% discount.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to. So with Pluralsight at $29 a month, with 5,000 plus courses, it's really like, I don't think it's possible anymore to sell something that's a whole lot more than that, unless you're really hyper specialized and in depth, like Adrian from the PyImage search stuff. Like you can't get that stuff anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's got he can probably, I don't know what he charges per month, but I know he had a course that he might have been charging $200 a month for or something.
Right.
No,
but that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and it was also the crowd that he was attracting was also, I think, it had a lot of entrepreneurs in it. So it was people that are used to spending more money for education. But yeah, so we're looking at doing some shorter courses like that, where it's like that way it's not a huge 3-month process to launch a course. We probably would make, I'm thinking we'd make maybe like $10,000 or $20,000 from launching it. Right. So it's not going to be it's not like going to triple our revenue or anything, but it'll be a nice, like if we could do one of those a month, that would really, really help. That would have a big impact.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is then I could also offer other people's videos. So like if you made a $9 video that you were selling on Simple Programmer and you're like, hey, you know what, we'll add it to your package too, then I just work things out so that, for every unique, username to download whatever, you get a chunk of that. Right. And, and that way, if somebody, does it on the subscription, then you essentially get paid for it. And then if somebody buys it, right, as a one-off, then yeah, you get that same price on it.
Right.
So.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing I'm looking at is I've reached out to a couple people with products about licensing their product for like a one-time fee. So basically I pay them, a few $1,000s up front, and then we have access to resell their content. So I've pinged, it's basically what we're doing with JavaScript Launchpad, which is a JavaScript course on Udemy right now. But yeah, I'd like to, if I could do that, that would actually work. Whereas like the affiliate model, the problem for us with the affiliate model is I'm really wanting to push people into this membership, and I don't want to be giving away chunks of the membership in perpetuity, right? So if somebody gives me an ebook or something, or I don't want to be giving them $1 for every sign up that I get,
right?
Because that will add up quickly. But I would be like, what I could do is give them $3,000 for lifetime rights to sell their product, and then I do a launch and I make $6,000 So I've made a profit, and then we have this additional resource that I can give away for free.
Yeah, that may be worth it too. Once you have a feel for what you can generally make from somebody else's thing, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So then I'm reasonably certain that I can make, like you said, 6,000. So I'll just pay you $3,000 for the right to the right to sell this.
Right.
So you essentially license it to myself and anybody who buys it from me.
Yep.
And and then you're done. And that makes a ton of sense too.
Yeah, because the other thing that Manny had sent us, or he told us a few weeks back about the guy. He mentioned this guy who had a personality business who kind of extracted himself out of it. Mm-hmm. And there was an interview he wanted us to listen to. So I listened to the interview, and my biggest takeaway was the way that this guy was in the martial arts niche, and he was good. He was able to get martial arts instructors, pay them like $1,000. They would create a course, and he'd build the funnel for it.
Right.
And he was really adamant in the interview about how if you're going to do this, you don't want to be paying royalties, because then you're basically, he was able to sell his business eventually for several $1 million. But if he'd been paying royalties, that would have been really difficult, because he would have been basically the buyer would have been incurring this, obligation or liability long term. And so it was like just to have it nice and clean.
That makes sense.
So that's what got me thinking about.
It's not just sellability either, right?
Yeah.
Is that then you can basically with impunity do whatever you've got to do to make it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's definitely, I mean, I've done a little bit of, I have a little bit of experience with paying out royalties, and I'd rather minimize that as much as possible.
Well, that's complicated too, right? Because then you have to, well, we sold so many of these, but these ones were on sale, and these ones were this other thing, and this one was blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And, and they feel gypped, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I would be, if you get, like, when you get around to getting your coder job course in saleable condition, if that ever happens, we could talk about doing something like that, or some kind of joint launch or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if this is kind of part of the thrust of your membership, we could also work it out so that, I get a chunk of change one way or the other on that. And then you can just offer it to them as an added feature or something, if that
right.
makes sense. And then we can promote it to, your list, and you get a chunk of that, and however that works out. But I've got to get the podcast processes stuff together first on Podwrench.
Yes. And, I think that you've done a really good job of staying focused on that. So
yeah.
And I think it's really paid off so far.
Well, and I've had, it's kind of been interesting because I currently now have JavaScript Jabber booked out for at least the next 4 or 5 weeks. Everything, all of the spots. And the only reason that it's not more than that is because Kendo UI hasn't paid for the renewal, but they will for their spot. So I'm pretty much booked out for 12 weeks on JavaScript Jabber front to back. And I'm getting there with Adventures in Angular has the pre-roll and mid-roll, and so does Ruby Rogues. So it's just a matter of collecting the checks for these stupid things, right? But my goal, it was funny, I set a goal a couple weeks ago, basically to increase my fill rate by 10%. And I did that in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And I've still got a couple of other companies that I'm talking to this week and next, or mostly next week. I have two appointments right now with potential sponsors, and I've got a couple of other people who we're talking to about pulling things together. So Anyway, it's been kind of interesting just to see this all start to come together. And I'm amending my goal now to make it 20%. If I increased it by 20%, we'd be over 50% full.
Wow.
But the thing that's interesting is that the 60% that's not full are the smaller shows.
Right.
So I've sold as far as the value of the inventory. I've sold well over 50% of the
Mm.
value. But filling these other shows, it does help, and it does help pay for them. And then just getting stuff together so that we can, promote the shows and
Right.
things like that. So
Have you I mean, we're kind of getting toward the end here, but I don't remember if we've talked about this before or not. But have you had any success pitching like I'll give you 100,000 impressions of JavaScript developers versus a show? Have you tried that?
I haven't. It's something that I am definitely working on building into this, because I've talked to a number of smaller shows, so they get 1,000 or less downloads
Right.
per episode, right? Um, and most of these companies, they want, most of them actually want to buy, 50,000 plus impressions.
Right.
And so if I could cobble together a bunch of these smaller shows and then, offer, whatever inventory I have as well, then yeah, I'd love to offer a package where it's like, hey, this is a package for 100,000 impressions with JavaScript developers.
Mhm.
And it'll be on all these shows and blah, 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 right? And it'll be 100,000 weekly impressions. And, your spots will all go out more or less in the same week.
Right.
And yeah, I think that'd be really interesting. I think there are some systems I'd have to put in place around it, but yeah, that's the direction I definitely want to head. Just because, yeah, then I could offer that package, right?
Yeah, because
impressions.
That's more or less how like Google Display Network works.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you pick interest areas that you want to target, and they figure out where to put it.
Yeah, it's most media buys are kind of the same thing, right? They know which markets they're going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
They know generally the demographics of the people that are watching, and so they're buying impressions against that demographic. They're not actually
right
in any way sponsoring or endorsing a show.
Yep.
And so, getting that in line with everything else. I mean, if they're looking for software developers in the US, then sponsoring across more or less all of devchat.tv makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But if you're trying to hit a specific market like Ruby
UI or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you're trying to hit Ruby market, for example, I mean, we can get you 10,000 impressions per week, but that's probably not up. So the smaller companies are interested in that. The bigger companies really aren't.
Right.
And so I think I could raise the profile of some of the sponsorships that we get by doing that. And I've also figured out that some of the bigger shows like This Week in Tech and some of the 5x5 shows, the reason that they get the higher profile sponsors is because they have that level of traffic.
Right.
And so that if I could get there, I mean, building there's still room for me to build the audiences, but I don't know if we get to 100,000 on any of these shows.
Right.
I think for example, JavaScript Jabber, I think we could get to 50. And maybe once we get to 50, I'll have a more realistic idea of what it'd take to get to 100. But I don't know exactly what it'll take to be there.
Right.
Anyway.
Cool.
But yeah, that is definitely a direction that I want to head in. But for right now, it's more just getting my current process codified and making sure that this is all working for Eric and Michelle and anybody else who winds up working for me, so that they can just come in and manage this stuff, and then I can add those other things in. But I also am working on adding agency entities to Podwrench, so that you can essentially go to the agent page and it says, I represent all these shows, and here are the packages that I offer. And so that's where the package would come in, right? Is it'd be will get you, 70,000 or 100,000 impressions.
Nice. Killing it, man.
Killing myself with all this stuff. I'm so dang tired. But once I have the grass in, I think that's one major thing off my list. And next week I should have the bulk of what I need done on Podwrench, not just for the sponsorship stuff, but also for allowing my co-hosts to manage a lot of the processes around the podcasts. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Alrighty. Any thoughts?
I think my thought this week is mostly going to be, like I said, I got up this morning really early. We went, our tea time was 6:30 this morning. And I think it was mostly so that, he could go get to work at a reasonable time. But yeah, a lot of times it's not really about taking time off per se. It's not about a lot of the stuff that we kind of talk about to avoid burnout. It was just nice to be outside and walk around or ride on the golf cart. And the other thing that I'm also going to bring up as a thought, because I kind of have both of these thoughts, and the one, it was just very refreshing to be outside. The other thought that I had, and away from the manure, the other thought that I had was that, and I don't know how many people who watch or listen to this play golf, but I have a couple of tendencies to just, for example, you want to hit the ball down the fairway, which is usually pretty straight. Sometimes, they curve off to the right or left. But generally, you just want to hit a straight shot, down the middle of the fairway. And
simple.
So, I get out the golf club and I go and I try and rocket that ball down the fairway. And inevitably what happens is I'll hit a little bit high and it'll go buzzing off through the grass. Or I'll turn the club the wrong way at the last minute, and so it goes hooks off to the right or slices to the left, or it does something weird, or I'll overthink it, and I'll get so focused on just whacking it and kind of hitting it upward that I hit the tee underneath it and it goes popping straight up into the air. I've done all of these things, not today, but I've done all these things, right? And the real trick to successful golf, besides practice, so you go on a regular basis, the real trick is actually just getting a really smooth swing with a good follow through.
Right.
And so a lot of it's more about technique than about hitting the thing as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have your technique down, then you can put a little bit more power behind it.
Right.
And it's the same thing with all of this stuff, right? There are some things that I have tried to do that I have tried to basically force through.
Right.
And it doesn't work so well as when I just sit down and think about, okay, what am I working on? What is the outcome? What is the process? The same thing with this 12-week plan that I did a couple weeks ago. Where am I trying to get to? And how do I get a good smooth swing with a good follow through? Mm-hmm. And if I can get that together, then I don't have to go out and try and rocket the ball through, right? I can get out and I can make steady progress on it, and I can get good clean shots down the fairway until I can get the ball in the cup.
Right. It's better to hit I am horrible. I've played a little bit of golf when I was younger, and I'm horrible at teeing off. Absolutely horrible. To the point where I will hit the ball and it will go 30 feet all the way into the rough on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I've just dug myself a huge hole.
I did that a couple times too.
So it's better to do. So actually what I've done in the past at times is I just screw the driver, give me a 7-iron. I will tee off with a 7-iron. It's better to hit a 50-yard 7-iron tee shot than it is to try to whale the ball and end up 30 feet, 30 feet down and in the rough.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm fairly good at irons. I'm terrible at putting, terrible at driving, but like with the irons, I can make steady progress at least.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think so. My thought is that it's really easy to forget what you're good at. When you're, especially like when you're moving into a new context, it's easy to forget the things that made you successful in what you were doing previously. So I've done this with Simple Programmer and like sort of moving in, starting to send out the emails under my own name. With my own list, at joshuaearl.com, I've had like amazing, like people just absolutely love the emails that I write. And one of the things that I do really well there is just kind of being like honest and vulnerable and like, this is what I did. This is what happened. Like this is how the real world, like we do here. So moving into Simple Programmer, I just feel like I'm stepping into John's shoes, and like it's extremely intimidating. I feel like, if I haven't, made $300,000 a year as a programmer, then these people will not respect anything that I have to say. And so I kind of went into like, all right, I'm going to just like put on this armor and sort of project this air of authority mode. And getting away from that is what I started to do this week, and getting back to the same approach that's worked so well for me in with my own audience. And it seems like taking off the armor, just sort of being like, here's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my experience. This is my story. Take it or leave it. Like that works. And I think there probably are some people who can do the other thing and just like they're the alpha and they can really just project that, and that works great for them. But that's not me. And I'm sort of trying to let myself relax into that mode again. And so far it seems like it's bearing fruit. But it's really easy to completely forget your experience and go, I've been doing that, had my own list for like 3 or 4 years now, and I've seen over and over how people respond to this stuff. And yet coming into this new context, I like forgot all those lessons. So.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is you see what's worked for John.
Yes.
And so it's like, how do I recreate that? And the reality is that you're not John.
No.
And so, what worked for him may not pan out for you. And yeah,
I guarantee it.
Yeah, so you've got to figure that part of it out. And sometimes it's hard to get, because you have this idea, and this is something that I've had to get over lately, especially the big thing that triggered this for me was when my dad passed. I had this idea in my head about how the world was supposed to be, right? This is how it is. This is how it's supposed to work. I mean, it was completely unrealistic. And I think if I had really thought it through, I would have known that. But, so the way the world was supposed to be was that my dad was supposed to be around forever. Mm-hmm. And, so I really had to just kind of get out of my own head as far as the world isn't going to run and operate the way that I always thought it was going to. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to allow the world, or allow the way you interact with the world to line up with who you are, or line up with, where things actually are, regardless of how you want them to be. And it's tricky because you have to get to that point where it's, okay, this is the reality, right? I can't be John, or this is the reality. I'm not going to, life's not going to go exactly how I thought it was going to go. And so you have to be willing to adapt. And if you can't, then you wind up paying for it one way or the other.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Alrighty. Cool. Get that fill rate up, man.
Yeah.
70%.
What was that?
70%.
Yeah, right now it's 42%. And I would love to
awesome.
get it to 50. And I don't think that's unreasonably difficult.
Mhm.
But, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's looking like, yeah, my JavaScript story might fill up now that JavaScript Jabber's full.
Sweet.
So,
alrighty, I'll see you next week.
Yep. I will be here next week. Week after that is a little bit iffy because I'm going to Podcast Movement.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought the ticket to the conference. I paid for my hotel and my airfare, thinking that I was going to have a check show up.
Yeah.
So hopefully I have a check show up.
All right.
Because I could cover it, but yeah, then it's okay. Things are a little bit tight around some of these other things. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I've never been to Philadelphia, so I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. All righty. See ya.
Bye.